Hello, everyone, and welcome to your latest Wolves Fancast match preview. I'm your host, Little Dan. It's great to be back. I hope you all had a good summer. On tonight's show, I've got with me Jeffo, Pricey, and Blake. We'll also be having a Manchester United fan, Tim Vigon, who will be joining us shortly. There's been so much to talk about at Wolves over the last week. The biggest news that came out yesterday via John Percy of the Telegraph is that Max Kilman is expected to sign a new 5-year contract. Bumper deal for the academy graduate who was linked to Napoli with a £30 million bid the back end of last month. With all the sort of financial restraints that Wolves got at the moment, it's good to see that we've got that deal sort of sewn up. What's your opinions on Max Kilman getting a 5-year contract, Pricey? I know I've displayed my opinions of Max a lot over the years, but I know obviously found a member of the King Kilman Club. What's your feelings on the new contract for Max?
We're gonna. Me and you are gonna have very different views on this, aren't we, Dan? But I'm absolutely delighted. I was there from the start. Obviously, one of the founder members, as you so rightly put, of the KKC club. But I'm generally I really am delighted that he's signed. And I thought when the big fish were circling, like the Napolis, as you say, etc. I think there might be like a bit of a danger of him potentially going, considering we was having our closing down sale at the time and everyone was being flogged left, right, and centre. The fact that even given our current state at the moment, that he's been more than happy to sign on the dotted line and has also been made skipper. It's just for me, I think it's great news. He's come through from a young age. We all know his futsal skills, bit of a benefit, and I think he's just got better each year. I know Nuno didn't really want to give him much of a chance, but then since he has got his chance when he's come in, apart from like the odd mistake, as any young footballer would do, or as any like sort of developing footballer would do, I think he's generally been one of our better players. Always like 7 out of 10 every game. He's got all the attributes that you want as well in a defender. He's good on the ball. I think it's just great for us. 5-year deal as well, protects our investment as well for a bit. So for me, I just think I think it's fantastic news, and I don't expect him to get better as well as the season goes on. With someone like Dawson by the side of him there, I think he'll just improve and he'll get even better. So yeah, for me, just absolutely delighted.
I would take my hat off to Max Kilman, but I've got a bit of a Hulk Hogan haircut at the moment, so I haven't got the full cue ball. But he's feeding me humble pie season by season. Max Kilman he is getting better with age. Like I said, he still has got the odd mistake in him. Some of his big mistakes, unfortunately, seem to happen at Old Trafford. We'll be talking about the game in a bit more in depth later on. But I'm going to get Tim Vigon to join us all the way from America. How are you, Tim?
All right, guys. How's it going? Not too bad.
Great to have you on, Tim.
Bad. I appreciate you having me. It's really good to have the football back, isn't it?
Massively needed. As soon as that last, I was at the Old Trafford away game. I think it's the second from last game of the season, and it seems like a year ago. There's no excitement to talk about much at Wolves. The obviously got the women's World Cup on at the moment, which has got highs and lows like any tournament. But it's great to have the Premier League back, kicked off on Friday with Man City. Absolutely, to be honest, trouncing Burnley. I thought Burnley were going to be a lot more competitive than they were, but that just shows how much of a juggernaut Man City still are, aren't they?
Different level, aren't they? I said the other day to my mates, starting to feel like they're Bayern Munich, and the rest of us are just chasing. I think, you can say what you like about the money. It's irrelevant. It's modern football. That's what happens. The manager's still got to put a team together, and what he's done there, Guardiola. I mean, they're incredible. They look unstoppable. And when you watch some of these other teams, just watching Chelsea, Liverpool now, they're light years behind City. And Newcastle were good yesterday, but Villa lost their best defender to an awful injury, and it. I think we could get carried away with the first game of the season, and there's a lot to go about. I think everyone else is playing for second place, and it's not felt like that. It's always felt like there was at least one challenger, But I think they'll be hard this year. As a football fan, I hate what's going on at Wolves. I hate it. Proper football club, proper football team, really good manager, and he's had to leave the club, and that's devastating because I think I mentioned this last time I came on, but when I was younger, I used to go and see Wolves a few times when United weren't playing in the Steve Bull and Andy Mutch era. So I lived in Macclesfield, and it was really easy to get to Wolverhampton on the train. And Wolves were in the lower leagues and playing amazing football, and and I remember only half the ground being open. And it's amazing what has happened. You've got a fantastic stadium, fantastic ground, but the last few months it's been gutted up. It's a tough one for Wolves to come under this tomorrow to Old Trafford, because I think United we're a work in progress still. We're nowhere near City, miles from City, but the manager has brought together a much better side than we've had for a long time, getting rid of a lot of the players that weren't quite good enough, getting in upgrades. Biggest signing for us over the summer, for me, is a goalkeeper. I went to our friendly game in Las Vegas a few days ago, and I was saying to the person sitting next to me, if you just look at the way United are playing, they're about 15 yards further up the pitch. The whole team's positioning has changed. There was no confidence with De Gea with the ball at his feet, and I think that modern football, the goalkeeper's got to be able to play football. He's got to be able to start attacks. He's got to be able to give an extra man. And I went to the cup final, and what was really clear in the cup final, and I was sat quite high above and watching the pattern of the game, is we were incredibly deep, and City always felt like they had an extra player over because they trusted the goalkeeper. They'd pass the ball to him, and then United would back off. But if you gave the ball to De Gea, City were straight on him, and I think it was something like 78% of his balls went out of play or went to them. And I think that we're, it's a good time to get us because there's a new players bedding in and new system, new goalkeeper particularly, who's prone to being off his line, and he'll get caught a few times until he gets used to the league. But I think it's tough for Wolves to come there tomorrow with what's been going on at the club. And
that's it. Like you said, it's a tough ask. Obviously, Man United is still a work in progress. New goalkeeper. Obviously, you didn't start very well last season, losing at home to Brighton on the opening game of the season. We'll talk a bit more in depth about the fixture, but Tim's just mentioned Lopetegui leaving there, guys. I'm going to come to you, Jeff. What's been sort of your thoughts? What's your current thoughts on the whole debacle with Lopetegui leaving? The talks about financial restraints. Should Lopetegui have tried to stay and fight it out with the caliber of ability that he has, or as he left with under a cloud?
I mean, it's Julian Lopetegui. I mean, everywhere he goes, he leaves under a cloud. It's just the way he is. It's just the nature of the beast when you employ somebody who's a diva like that. But I think I don't know how everyone else feels about it, but personally, I'm just really disappointed because obviously, we were going places. We started to get some style back and some substance that sort of we'd lost under Lager and then what had come slightly beforehand as well. That we sort of were starting to put ourselves into a foundation and sort of build. And now we've done a full pre-season. We look ready to go. And between Jeff and the guys who are running the club and between Julian, they've thrown all that hard work over the last two months out the window and give it all to Gary O'Neill to pick up the pieces. And I kind of feel for Gary to come into that as well, because, it can't be good to not have this preparation time to put your ideas across. And he's got to work within a situation now that Julian has dropped him in the shit, to say the least, you know what I mean?
What's your opinions on Lopetegui, Blake? Obviously, the first talks of him being disgruntled at the financial restraints and lack of incomings, it does appear that the goalposts have been moved on him twice in regards to the calibre of players he was going to be allowed in. He was supposed to be originally young and talented with a bit of money too, just free transfers too, no signings whatsoever. Obviously, he had that in 2 interviews with Guillem Balaguer, which for me was just really... I could understand why he did it, but it just really is a sour taste in my mouth with the keeping us up that season was a great task that he completed, but the way he's left under this player has really soured it for me.
I just don't know how much I can blame him, because I 100% believe that Fosun sold him short on what the plan of this club was going to be. I 100% believe that this club sold that they were going to be able to spend money this transfer window. And obviously, not only were we not able to spend the money, we weren't able to spend anything. And as much as I would like to be frustrated with Julian, I don't really think he owes the club all that much. I mean, yeah, he was here for 9 months, but he certainly didn't have the relationship with the club that Nuno did. And, you know, yes, he has rejected the club twice, so I guess we probably should have seen this coming anyways. But I don't know. I just think it's a really sour situation the whole way around. And I don't know if Fosun knew that this was going to be the case when they had promised this to Julian, but it's just an absolute mess, isn't it? And it's really disheartening, because it's the first time in a really long time as a Wolves fan that I've come into a season with just almost no hope whatsoever. You know, it's funny to be back in this situation again. And it's just a shame, because like we said, we had played some really pretty football against Rennes. Now it is just Rennes, but we kind of thought for a moment there that this might actually work out into something that could get us into mid-table, and now we're just right back into the trenches again.
Like Jeff, I just mentioned, it's just left such a sour taste that after so much hard work's been put in, I genuinely thought, even if Lopetegui wasn't allowed to bring in signings, that he was on too big a salary to walk away. Because we've talked about him being a mercenary already. He was on a massive salary, rumoured to be between £6 million and £9 million a year, which for a Wolves coach is it's flabbergasting compared to the days of Mark McGee and Colin Lee and all the managers that we've grown up watching. I thought he'd keep us up. It might be by hook or crook, but I genuinely thought he'd keep us up. And then you've got the caveat that Jeff Shee in the recent letter said we will be able to spend more freely next summer. So there's your your carrot to stay, Julian, but he's already had the goalpost moved on him twice. They can't be trusted, can they? The owners, Fosun, they can't be trusted at the moment. They've obviously got a financial shortfall, which Tim Spears mentioned on The Athletic the other day, which they're trying to recoup, but it just seems like we're in such a mess at the moment. You've already mentioned Gary O'Neill's coming in with a tough task. We've still got some quality players, some top quality internationals still at Wolves, which I still think we've been good enough to stay up. But it just feels like we're sort of in limbo with Fosun at the moment. They need to either announce that we're up for sale, or I don't know where we go from here. You look at Villa at the moment. That's another reason why I think Lopetegui's thrown his toys out the pram. Seeing Unai Emery get given the war chest that he has, I can't see any. I want to dislike him for leaving, but I 100% understand why he's done it. Obviously, it's losing players like Adama, and the latest news that obviously Adama's joined Raul at Fulham. Just big key players on top of Neves that we've already lost. João Moutinho as well. Obviously, we saw Ryan Giles. We just recouped a bit of money. We've recouped a lot of money this summer, but there's just no optimism, like Blake's mentioned. But hearing all that, Tim, does it seem a lot worse than you envisaged?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we hate our owners. We don't trust our owners, and so I understand that feeling, and it's a horrible feeling when you feel conflicted about your club. And the thing is, it's not just Villa. You know, everybody's spending money. Everybody's spending money, and that's what must be difficult for the manager to look at and see that in a league where it's so competitive and where you've just flogged all those players, including Neves, for good money, to not be able to reinvest any of that into the squad when you're a competitor and a winner. I know he's a diva, I understand that, but most successful people in sport have that element about them. They want to win. And if you're not being given the tools to win, he's walked away from a big salary, like you say. You know, he could have just stayed and taken that money, whether it's 6 million, 9 million. But he's walked away because he doesn't believe he's been given what he should be given to win. And, you know, Mourinho would do the same thing on several occasions. I have a question for you guys, though, and you may have already discussed it, and apologies if you have. But what do you think about Neves going to Saudi Arabia as a player? Do you feel that shows a lack of ambition, motivation for the wrong reasons, or do you think he had no choice?
Do you want to take that one, Price?
Yeah, there's two sides to this, really, isn't there? So obviously we know for a while that he had his heart set on going to Barcelona.
Exactly, yeah.
And obviously that move wasn't really going to be forthcoming for the reasons which obviously are well publicised, that the money just wasn't going to come our way. So for him, that was really the only card left on the table for him. Now, he's already stayed a year longer at Wolves than what he expected. He's probably seen the writing on the wall here as well. He's probably not kept in the dark in regards to the fact that this season coming up now is going to be a season of potential struggle for us. And then he's got over here an offer from Saudi where he's going to be earning whatever times his already probably handsome salary. And also seeing the prevailing wind of all these players going over there, being sort of seduced by all the Saudi Arabian money and thinking, well, if that's the only offer on the table and I'm not going to stick around with Wolves anymore, and I can see that other players I know of a similar caliber of me are going over there, then obviously why wouldn't he? Now, he's obviously going to be a very rich man at the end of his contract, if he's not already rich enough. But from a professional standpoint, you know, the question that overhangs all these moves, not just Neves, but all the moves that have gone over to Saudi is this, are you going to look back on these years in Saudi and think, you know, was this time well spent professionally?
I mean, that's the question, isn't it? Because like there was the famous story about George Best, where he's lying in bed with Miss World and the waiter comes in to the hotel room and asks him where it all went wrong. And he's like, are you kidding me? And if we look at it from, take away us as fans, as human beings, if somebody offers you 4 or 5 times your salary to have generational wealth for a couple of years' work that will set up like family for the next 2 generations, 3 generations, I think it's really hard, especially if you've come from nothing, to expect people to turn that money down. I always hate it when football fans say, oh, so-and-so's greedy, he's only gone for the money. I don't know any of my mates who wouldn't take the same job for 5 times the wages. The only
thing I'd say with that, though, Tim, is that these players are not, the players that are going over there, they're not struggling, are they, at the minute? They're already on...
No, but
life changing amounts of money already, aren't they? You know,
completely. But if you think about it, in life, when people get wealthy, they don't stop. They want to get more. They want to get more. They want to get more. And there's more things that you can do, and there's more things that you can do for your family. And I think it's harsh to judge people for making a move that can transform your lives forever. I agree with Sean there. It's his job, and wages are a big part of that decision. And like you say, I agree that if the right move isn't there, then for me, I understand it. But it's interesting because I know a lot of people disagree and they think players should really be focused on their legacies. But again, you know, football's a tough game, isn't it? If you look at, like, there's you get one injury and you're forgotten about. You know, you're literally done as far as that team is concerned. And there's no sentiment the other way around. If somebody wants to flog somebody and they're just done, you know, it's a tough world, football. And I do feel for the players that struggle at the other end of the game, who have to watch this ridiculous amount of money being given to one player, when you've got even players in the Premier League earning still a minute amount of money in comparison. But at the same time, you look at what the Saudi market has done and the amount of money it's pouring into the other leagues that is getting thrown around. I mean, £110 million for a Brighton player who has only played a year in the Premier League. That's not happening last year. There's no way Liverpool are coming out 110 million, because they've just flogged Fabinho for 45 million quid. Jordan Henderson, they got like 25, 30 million quid for. You know, so these players that usually would have been going off for frees, and the market's completely distorted by it. And I think that it's going to change, and it's not stopping. When you look at the list of people that have gone to Saudi and are continuing to go to Saudi, they're top class players. You know, players that have been linked to us, to Barcelona, all over this last 3 years. They're going to Saudi Arabia now. And then you've got the other end of the stick with Messi. He's gone to a horrendous league. The MLS is terrible. You know, he's scoring a goal a game. He couldn't even score a goal every 4 games at PSG. You know, we're in a really strange time for football where the money is distorting that level of things. But for clubs like Wolves, when you get that sort of sale, the money surely has to be invested into the squad. And when it's not, that's when I think the fans have a right to be disappointed with the ownership and the managers too. You know, to sit there and watch the money come in for Neves and then be told you shouldn't be losing players to Fulham. You shouldn't be losing players to Fulham. You're Wolverhampton Wanderers. You know, that's my opinion. Sorry.
If you're one of the live viewers, let us know. If you think there's an element that Ruben Neves was a villain going to Saudi, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that, because from my point of view, not only has he set himself up for life, he's got 3 kids now. I'm not sure about everyone else, but I'm sure his wife isn't cheap to keep her maintained. Obviously, footballers' careers are really short. You hear so many footballers who go bankrupt as soon as they retire. And the biggest point for me, that transfer fee theoretically could have saved us this season. We might get relegated still, but that transfer fee might be the difference between us getting and not getting a point deduction the season after. Let us know if you think Neves is a villain in any element in the comment section, guys. And thanks for joining us on the Wolves Fancast YouTube channel tonight. Obviously, Spotify UK mentioned recently that based on the hours consumed last season, that we are the most popular fan-made podcast for Wolverhampton Wanderers. So we're pleased to continue having your support. Obviously, drop a like if you're not already. Please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our episodes. Trevor W, he's not a villain unless he comes back to the Premier League to a northeast side, that was an element that we were massively concerned about Newcastle bringing him instantly on loan, which is still a possibility. But even hell, still not watching the Saudi League ever, which is, like I said, as much as I love Ruben Neves, I've not watched 5 minutes of a live game yet. I don't really intend to. I'll watch all the highlights. I saw Cristiano Ronaldo's I don't even know. Al Nassr. I was going to say Al Ittihad then, who beat Al Hilal yesterday in the cup final. Got no interest in the league. Tommy Taylor there. Neves did us a huge favour going at that price. God bless Ruben. Yeah, I've got nothing. I shed a tear when Ruben Neves did that goodbye video. Go and try and switch back to the game. Obviously, away to Manchester United tomorrow. Bruno Fernandes came out yesterday in the media saying that Mateus Nunes, I think that this will be a big season for him. He can be a player that scores goals, gives assists, and lots of energy. It is a massive season for Mateus Nunes, isn't it? Jeffo obviously still got a massive transfer value that he needs to sort of justify. He's looked sharp in pre-season from my point of view. What's your feelings on how big a season this is for Mateus?
Yeah, I think it's certainly a lot of pressure on him to perform now, because you only say within his price tag was quite outrageous, but he did a lot when he was in Portugal, and the way that he played football and the way that he was able to influence games and score goals and get assists for teams and in games when he was over there, and he was a match winner. We haven't seen that in a Wolves shirt yet, and we know that there has been issues with the way he's been played and the position he's been played. Probably not his strongest until probably later in his Wolves first season, and he's playing certainly off the wing as well, which is something different for him. But we saw in probably the last 5 or 6 games that he was starting to develop and starting to work in that role. And I say a lot of players, when they come over to the Premier League and they come into a new language, new culture, new society, it takes time to adapt. And especially the sort of game against Chelsea where he scored that screamer, he did fantastic, really. And I mean, talking about what the threat says there, I think his best position is in sort of that box-to-box number 8, because he can carry the ball well. He's quite press resistant, and he's got a good range of passing as well. The problem is that he doesn't get enough shots off on goal, and the ones that he doesn't tend to get any power behind them. He always tends to look like he scuffs his shot or he hits it straight at the goalkeeper, and that's something that they've got to work on with him. And say time's his best friend at the moment, because he's only a young lad still in terms of a football career, and he's got time to develop. So they need to get him playing in his right way, give him a little bit more freedom, like they're saying in the comments there through Matt Bradley. Let him play his role and express himself, because we have the players around him that can do dirty work now. We've got the Mario Leminas of the world, the João Gomez's. Let him be a free spirit and play football in the beautiful way.
There's just a big comment by Stu Kelsall in the comment section here, Pricey. We've got a lot of talent, but it's a season they need to deliver. It is literally that simple. Matheus Cunha came for a massive fee in January. Matheus Nunes still hasn't really hit the heights of his transfer value last summer. It's a massive season for those two in particular, isn't it?
Absolutely. I echo what Jafar said there. So, I mean, especially on Nunes, he strikes me as like a bit of a maverick sort of player, someone who, given a bit of freedom, I think would flourish. I don't envisage for 1 second that when we bought him with playing him on the wings in mind. I just think because of what a mess and car crash our season was last year, until Lopetegui come in, we weren't seeing any of the best of him at all. And we still haven't, if we're honest, we saw little bright spots, but considering what we paid for him and the reputation that he holds, both the reputation that we know of him and in Portugal, I think we're going to need to see him really step up this year. And I think if we do play him in the correct position, I do think then we will start to see him flourish. We've all saw his skill on the ball. We saw the quality of his shots he can do, what we saw at Chelsea, or against Chelsea, should I say. And then players like Cunha, I think with Cunha, people need to understand that he's not going to be the player that's going to get he's not going to be our main goal scorer. Cunha, he doesn't strike me so as that sort of player. We're going to be looking for the majority of our goals elsewhere. But if he's in the right, again, like a support striker role behind their actual striker, I think we can see him flourish. But again, from last season, we saw him playing up front on his own. I mean, we've just not saw the best of him. So again, we are expecting much more from his players now. They've certainly in Cunha's case had a summer to settle in, and we're going to be looking for a lot more. And given the outlay, we've had our fingers well and truly burnt with Guedes, haven't we? 30 million, and what have we had back from that? It's just probably one of our worst signings in recent history. He has, and my thoughts on Guedes are a matter of public record on this sort of thing. He's just shit, and he's not fitted since minute 1. So, chalk that up as a bad one. So we're not going to get anything back from him or anything on the pitch or anything else like that. So we're looking for the likes of Cunha and Nunes and some of the established players, like your Netos of this world, looking for them to step up again now. It's been a while since Neto's had a good run of form and talent. And we had injury problems, so that's a mitigation for him. and then you do others which, if anyone could have a glimpse into our Fancast group chat, we see the almost daily debates about like Hwang and Sarabia. You know, we could write a Lord of the Rings tome of our like thoughts on those two players from our group chat. But there are others, you know, they need to step up as well. Not just the big signings, everyone that we've got in the forward positions, especially given how crap we are creating and scoring chances. They all now need to step up for sure this season. But you know, hoping through O'Neill's training sessions, which did appear, you know, we've had that brief glimpse into O'Neill's training sessions on the Wolves YouTube channel. You know, he's got a good pedigree as a coach, you know, and I'm quite optimistic he'll work effectively with these players. I mean, O'Neill came into Bournemouth in not too dissimilar circumstances to what was coming in here. You know, he came in, he was dropped into Bournemouth when Parker thought the job was, you know, too hard, essentially. And he's coming into us, albeit probably like a couple of games earlier than then. So I'm confident, given, you know, he's got a good coaching background to him, he can work with these players, and hopefully, you know, we're going to see a bit more from them this season.
That's the thing, isn't it? Sorry, just to butt in on O'Neill, is his reputation is as a coach, and you've got some players there that you think have under-delivered and developing, especially a player like Nunez. You know, that's where, as much as making a team fit together, that's where a new manager can really have an impact. If he can get into the mind of that player and get into the things that Jethro mentioned that he feels have been a problem with him, those are things you can work on and that you can improve. If you look at Klopp, and he brought in a player like Andy Robertson from Hull and turned him into one of the best fullbacks in the world because he clearly saw something in him. And Robertson was clearly not that player when he went there, you know, and obviously I hate him, but he's a quality player now. And I think great coaches can turn around a player's career. And I think that's what you have got with O'Neill there, is you've got somebody that players respect. He's a football coach, you know, and he's got results doing that sort of thing. He's a really good coach. I think it's a really good appointment. I just think he's been thrown right in at the deep end, and you need time. You know, he's not had a pre-season. He's got to get this team going. I don't think you guys are going down. I just had a look at the league again, and I was thinking, really, like, you know, looking at those teams, there's no way Luton stay up. Sheffield United are going to struggle. So you know, Forest, I think, probably struggle. You know, there's teams where you've got much more talent than they have. It's just going to take you a minute. I think you might have a rough early part of the season, but I'm pretty confident that O'Neill keeps you up. I think he's too good of a football man, and like Jethro said, the talent is there, but it's whether a coach can get hold of the players, see where the quality is, and see what needs doing, and turn them into better players.
I feel like Gary O'Neill, he might be a great coach. My only concern with Gary O'Neill, compared to Lopetegui, he doesn't have the aura. These sort of players that we've just discussed, Mateus Nunes, Mateus Cunha, Pablo Sarabia, who's played for the Spain national team, so many other big caliber players. Are they going to sort of buy into his philosophies? That's my only concern with Gary O'Neill.
Can I just say though, wouldn't you have said the same about Eddie Howe going to Newcastle? Didn't everybody say the same about Eddie Howe? It's like, you know, they're this team that have got all this money. They're expecting to challenge for the Champions League, and they're taking Eddie Howe. How's Eddie Howe going to deal with superstars? And you look what he's done there. You know, the proof is in the pudding, and Newcastle are looking a good team. No one talks about Eddie Howe getting sacked. And at the beginning, everyone didn't think he'd last a few months. I think, you know, good footballers respond well to good coaches. I've got a couple of mates who were ex-footballers, and one of my friends, Matty Lawrence, you know, he used to play for Palace, and he was captain of Millwall in the cup final against us. And I talk to him about this stuff all the time. And he's like, there's two ways that coaches have respect. Like, you've got either you were a superstar footballer and you're still the best in training, which he told me about Ray Wilkins. He felt like that was, everybody just worshipped him. Or your football language is inarguable because you're making the improvements and you know how to deal with the players. And I think that's what O'Neill can do. And it's hard to find a coach with aura. It's hard. There's only a very few of them that really have that. And I think where Wolves are at the moment, for me, you need more of a football man that can get the best out of players and understands how to succeed in this league, which is a very tough league. And again, for Nunez, coming into this league from Portugal, it's tough.
So I said something similar on our chat, because I said that to me, football players will respond to good coaching. Doesn't matter who they are. If they can see that the ideas that they're trying to embed work, and they're developing and progress, and that translates to results on the pitch, I think they'll buy into it no matter who it is. Some players will naturally want big names coming in, because they think if it's a big name who's done a lot in the game, they will give them respect and they'll listen to them. But I think as time goes on, if they've not got any good ideas, progressive ideas, and not developing, I think that aura goes from. We can all list off some examples, like the Contes, the so-called proven winners. They'll go into clubs and they don't do anything. They don't progress the club. You also like Mourinho go into like Spurs, felt it was beneath him, sacked. Same for Conte. I think you've got the very two types of managers: managers who will lean on their playing days, the managers who've actually studied the game, have good coaching methodologies and ideas, and they can develop players. Hopefully, O'Neill falls into the latter, and that he's just someone who's got good coaching ideas, and it seems that way. So, I'm weirdly optimistic about how we'll get on in the season. But like Dan said, it depends how the players ultimately take to him. If they only respond to big names, then they're not going to get on with O'Neill. But if they respond to good coaching philosophies, then hopefully we'll be fine.
But that's why I think he's going to need a moment to win their trust of those lads in there, because he's not just walking in going, even I'm like Julian. It's like he's got to prove himself to those lads and win them over, and that's why I think it's going to take a minute. But I do think it's a solid appointment under the circumstances, and you've got a squad that's much better than I looked at it. Better squad than Everton. There's 4 or 5 teams that are way down behind you, I think.
So Sean Crow in the comment section, my thought is this squad has loads more talent than what Bournemouth had. Why are people projecting that same coach to get relegated with more talent? I had to repeat this numerous times on my Twitter this week, is that I've got no vendetta against Gary O'Neill. He might be an exceptional coach, but I feel he's been thrown such in the deep end with this squad. We've got a really tough batch of opening fixtures, haven't we? Man United away, Brighton at home, and then is it Everton and Crystal Palace? You're not picking up any points from them 4 games. Wolves fans are already of that toxic nature at the moment, waiting for something to go wrong. I mean, it came out earlier on today via Chester Football Club stealing the our mascot's Wolfie's costume. It's just one thing after another at Wolves at the moment, Tim. You just don't understand. It's a bad place to be. The Chester Football Club have taken the iconic Wolfie costume and renamed him Lupus. It's just one thing after another. And Wolves fans, we're just waiting for something to moan about. And I just feel those opening batch of fixtures, we need to put in some good performances on behalf of this coach. Otherwise, he's on a hide into nothing. I feel really sorry for him. And you hear the sort of talks that we're not going to be bringing in many players. It's tough. And obviously, Paul's commenting here, our fixtures are really tough. We play everyone twice. It's a fair comment. One of the comments that Gary O'Neill came out with earlier on today is that on Fabio Silva. From where I'm sat now, I expect Fabio to be a big part of what we do this season. It's make or break, isn't it, for Fabio Silva this season at Wolves? He's still got a high value, which I feel like if he hadn't have been bought for such a high value, we may have let him go this summer. But as a commodity, they still need to give him one last season to try and recoup some money if he is. Hopefully, he'll go on to be the player that Football Manager predicted. it's a massive season for Fabio Silva. Hopefully, I think we're all of the same opinion. Jeff, I'll come to you, Blake. Do you feel Fabio justifies starting tomorrow?
Why not? I mean, we don't really have options, and we've discussed a lot about the talent that we have on this team, and there is a lot of talent, but the one thing that we really do not have is an established goal scorer. There's no one that we look at in that squad and think, oh yeah, that guy is definitely going to score 10 goals this season. There's no one. And so why not? I mean, at this point, just sub him off at halftime, and if it's not working out, I mean, he's really proved himself at Anderlecht to some degree, and sure, that's not the Premier League, but I mean, we're just so thin on options up front that I just think we've got to do something, don't we? And yeah, sure, maybe Sarkic now, or not Sarkic, yeah, Sarkic now that he's off of injuries. I'm sorry, Kovacic, now that he's off injury and might be able to start finally, maybe he can do something. But we've just got to find something that works. And I think there needs to be some tinkering at that end until we find something that does work.
You're on mute, Dan.
My bad. Adrian Richards just said Sasha will get between 1 and 12 goals if fit this season. I mean, I hope it's towards the latter end of that 12, Adrian. It's a big season for Sasha. Hopefully he stays fit. That ACL he had last season was really bad for him and the club at the time. But we're all all the eggs are in the Fabio Silva basket this season. That number 9 shirt still hasn't been revealed who's taking that this season. It looks like it's going to be Fabio unless Fosun can somehow find some yen behind the settee to get a new striker in. I'm just going to try and pull up the predicted lineups for the game tomorrow, and we'll talk in depth about who's going to obviously be key. I've gone for a 4-3-3 for Wolves. Obviously, Jose Sarr in goal, Semedo right back, Dawson and Kilman centre halves. Ryan Aït-Nouri, who scored an absolute screamer against Rennes last Saturday. Left back, midfield 3 of Lamina Gomez and Mateus Nunes, with a front 3 of Pablo Sarabia, Fabio Silva, and Mateus Cunha. Someone did mention in the comments earlier asking what our opinion is of Pablo Sarabia. What's your opinion of Pablo Sarabia, Jeffo?
Oh, it's a good question, to be honest. It's one of those. He's come in on a low price tag. He did well at PSG. He's always done okay where he's gone and always scored goals and got an assist. But we haven't seen that from him since he's been at Wolves. He's looked lightweight for the league. He doesn't look like he's got the athletic ability to influence games. And the chances that he has had have been pretty golden. And he's either put them straight at the goalkeeper or put them over the bar. So it's sort of been a baptism of fire. But I think with a lot of them, they came in at that January transfer window and they were on a hiding to nothing, a lot of them. And it was kind of difficult. I think what made it worse was the fact that we had players come in like Joe Gomez, who did well, and Mario Lemina, who arguably could have been player of the season last year in any other year, did as well as they did. And it kind of put a lot of negative eyes onto Sarabia, but now he's going to be important this first sort of 5 or 6 games. If he gets 3 or 4 starts, that he does get a couple of assists or maybe even a goal, and he has these moments where he's influencing games because he has to. Despite him only coming in for £5 million, he has to be a player that influences the games because he's in such an important position for that team. If he does play in that 10 where he's played before, if he plays in a wide area, he's got to be supplying chances to the forwards because that is what we need in this team. And that's what we've said for the past 2-3 years. We need to score more goals, and players like that are going to be the ones that are the causation factor for that.
Neve has commented saying that it feels the same as last season, that although we've got some quality players, that doesn't seem like an obvious threat of a top goal scorer. Obviously, Fabio Silva is being tasked with that. Tim, you sort of touched on it earlier that you think there's probably going to be at least 3 teams that are going to be worse than Wolves come the end of the season. You see that starting lineup there in a bit more detail. You're probably right. Well, I'm hoping you surely are going to be right that we've got enough to stay up.
I think that there's one thing that I feel like you need a British central midfielder. You need one player that can really get stuck in and set the tone.
Like
That's
Lee
when I look.
Kettermole.
Like, well, you know, I look at
Yeah, someone
like
a bit more, Steven Gerrard, but for a Wolves level.
yeah, you need
Someone who can grab the game by the scruff of the collar.
Absolutely. And I think when we bought Casemiro, we paid stupid money for a 30-year-old player, but that's what he's done for us. You know, he just walked into that team and transformed it.
I genuinely, with Casemiro, he's another player that's fed me so much humble pie in the last sort of 18 months, because I did think he was just sort of like John Obi Mikel used to be for Chelsea, just a bit of a
water carrier
defensive, but it just shows how good Kroos and Modric are, that he went so under the radar for ability, because he's got so much more to his game than just being a roughhouse in the midfield.
We look a different team when he's not on the pitch. I mean, literally, you know, he's transformative, and I'm not convinced about Mason Mount. I've never really understood him. So, you know, I want him to feed me some humble pie, because I look at him and I just think, you know, I've never seen him take a game by the scruff of the neck, and like exactly what you're doing here. Where does Fernandes play and where does Mount play? You know, Fernandes is the one that is supposed to have that free role, that roaming in the 10. I just don't know if Mount. I don't know. I hope he proves me wrong. The big issue for Wolves tomorrow will be Garnacho going down the left. And the thing about that player is he's fearless, because he's so young. And I think players like that, they're at their most dangerous, where they're not in their heads. Like we talked about Anthony Joshua last night in his fight. You know, if you think about an early Anthony Joshua and the fights he was going into, he was going out there and steaming through people. And then now he almost looks overcoached and like he's got too many things going on in his head.
Yeah.
Garnacho's playing football like he's playing in the street at the moment, which is why he's exciting. And we'll see what he turns into. Obviously, everybody's excited. Anthony is, you know, obviously talented, incredibly frustrating with his final ball. Left foot is like a wand when he wants it to be, but not very disciplined. I have a feeling Wan-Bissaka might have that place at right back. He seems to have grown on the manager. And if you saw in pre-season, there were a couple of times when Dello gave the ball away that put us in trouble and got Onana lobbed. So I do see what you're saying. I do think there's a bit of steel missing from that Wolves team. Just somebody to get properly stuck in the middle and set the tone. You know, sometimes you need somebody who's going to do that. But from what you're saying, Silva, when he came in, I think he came in with such a lot of excitement that because he hasn't delivered immediately, it feels like a bit of a letdown. But again, he's so young and he's obviously got ability. There's no question about that. And it's a quick case now if a coach has got strikers need belief. They need confidence. O'Neill's got to get in his head, make him feel like he's the best striker in the league. Tell him that, make him believe it, make him not overthink, and make him shoot on sight. Let him be a striker. And I think he can do a lot of damage. He's definitely got the ability. It's all mental. But buying an out-and-out goal scorer is the hardest thing to do. I mean, United have just spent 73 million quid on some player nobody had heard of 3 months ago. I don't know if any of you were talking about Højlund 3 months ago. I didn't even know he existed. And we've got, it became this big signing. I mean, again, who knows? I mean, these guys that scout and coaches, they know better than I do. But I always love, in summer, especially Liverpool fans do it the worst. Some name, like this Hungarian kid who's just signed for them. I've never heard of him. I had no clue. He was useless today. But when they signed him, when they were talking about signing him, you read on the internet, all these people seem to be experts on the smaller league football that none of us have got time to watch. Too busy trying to keep up watching the Premier League. But so I've got no idea what our striker is like, and I know he's not ready and he won't be playing. And Rashford through the middle is nowhere near as effective as Rashford coming in from the side. So, you know, I still think you're facing a United in progress. And like you say, we did start slowly last year. It was a completely new coach. I think it's a different time, but I still think it's not a bad time to play us in that way. But there's always there's a difference in confidence, isn't there? And United feel like a team on the rise. Hopefully, that's how the perception is. And Wolves feel like a team in trouble. And it's like you say, what's the psychology of that Wolves team that goes out there? Are they going out there with freedom because they know they've got nothing to lose? They're going out there to prove something. You know, football's a funny game, man. You just never know.
What you're saying, Tim, is you're missing Wout Weghorst. Is that what you're trying to say?
Listen, man. I mean, do you know what? Do you know what? He's rubbish, right? But he tried. You know, he pressed and he worked. And the thing is, like, I've been a United fan since '85. I've had my season ticket since '85. You know, when I was 15. I've seen some rubbish. I've seen some brilliant footballers. I've seen some terrible footballers. I don't expect us to win every year. I don't expect us to even make the Champions League every year. But I expect players who are getting paid hundreds of thousands a week to play for Manchester United to try and give their all. And that's all I can ask. You know, it's all I can ask. And I think that what I like about the manager is he's eased out the players that we just didn't believe in, you know, and I'd rather have a team of players that I like and believe are doing their best. Like, obviously, Lisandro Martinez has been incredible for us, and we love a player like that. That's what I'm saying. He'll set the tone. He'll get stuck in, and one tackle lifts the whole team. It lifts the stadium. And I think those players, they're as priceless as a goal scorer. Do you know what I mean?
I think
Jeff, looking at that Wolves lineup there, any sort of changes that you'd suggest?
To be honest, I think you could kind of put Sarabia in for Hwang. I think Hwang's done fairly well in pre-season as well. I think he took his goal in the game a couple of weeks ago quite well. And he's in exactly the same boat as Sarabia. He's got to perform this season, and he's got to be more influential on games. So he's probably the only one. I mean, Traore is going to be more involved this season as well, but I don't think he's sort of ready. And then you've got a 50-50. You can toss a coin on who plays left back, to be honest, because Hugo Bueno is equally as good and equally as influential as Ryan O'Neary. So it's sort of one of those. It is a flip of a coin. But personally, yeah.
Section, let us know who you'd have at left back, because obviously Jeff, I just mentioned there, it is literally a 50-50, but who would be your choice to start at left back tomorrow, Ryan O'Neary or Hugo Bueno? There has been a few comments, Tim, sort of pulling you up on our lack of, aggression in centre midfield, saying this guy doesn't know much about João Gomez and Mario Lemina. They are sort of two rough and ready midfielders. I think Mario Lemina took quite a few Wolves fans by surprise about how rigid and sort of how organised he was. He does have that sort of presence to make that into a back five defence on occasion. So we'll see how our midfield free. I think that's where the game gets won tomorrow. You look at the calibre,
and that's what I was saying before. That you know, it's hard enough to keep up with the Premier League, let alone watching League One or. I definitely haven't seen enough of Lemina or Gomez to know that. So I apologise to Wolves fans for
Mario Lemina was only recently at Juventus a couple of seasons ago. He's had a couple of injuries which has set him back. But I think I don't know whether it was Jeff Price mentioned earlier that he could have won Player of the Season last year from January up until May. He was that integral to us. Obviously, Ruben Neves was suspended and he may have been injured a couple of games, and Mario Lemina and Mateus Nunes, when Neves were out, really took the Wolves to another level, which has led us to where we are now. I think as much as he's been massive for Wolves over the last 5-6 years, I still feel there is a future without Ruben Neves where we can cope. But I think there's still the biggest point is where are the goals going to be coming from? from this Wolves team. Looking at that Man United side there tomorrow, Tim, you've obviously mentioned Garnacho there and Rashford. Is there any other areas you think that Wolves could exploit?
I think obviously the fact that we're playing with a completely new goalkeeper and a completely new system, so playing further up the pitch, so the back four have got to be perfect in possession, and I'm confident with Varane, Martinez, and Shaw, but with both Dalot or Wan-Bissaka, and bearing in mind that you're looking at Anthony, whose defensive discipline is zero, that's the side that teams are going to have joy against us with. Luke Shaw's been phenomenal over the last 2 or 3 years. He's without any doubt, again, watching Chilwell today, Shaw's leagues ahead of him as a fullback. And so, and that side with Martinez and Shaw is much, much tougher. But I think the right-hand side, or left for Wolves, coming at Anthony and Dalot or Wan-Bissaka, especially putting them under pressure in possession, it's the most important place, especially given that we'll be pushing so high up the pitch. So it's an opportunity to really get at at that side of our defence.
Any Manchester United players for you, Pricey, that you think we should be aiming to sort of press on tomorrow?
I mean, I know we talked earlier about Cunha and Silva being the strike partnership of dreams, but I can just imagine a moment where Kaladzic gets up against Martinez in the long ball stakes, because I know who my money will be on to win the headers there. But then to be honest, even with Martinez, I mean, Tim, you probably know full well that when you sign Martinez, everyone was talking about his height or lack thereof, but it doesn't seem to have hampered him, up against even some of the taller strikers. But as you say, I mean, the key thing to exploit here is the new goalkeeper. He's obviously not a terrible goalkeeper, but he won't have the communication lined up just yet with the back four. And it's a solid enough back four, isn't it? That United have got there. It's relatively unchanged from last year. In fact, you haven't got rid of him yet, have you, Maguire? But he's still lurking around a little bit in the background until you get rid of him. But yeah, I just think that's the main thing for us to try and exploit. If we have a Fabio and Cunha partnership, which is really quite creative, quite exciting, and we can exploit that new goalkeeper back four combination, then yeah, I think that's probably our best shot. But that does require us to actually create chances and have shots on goal. That's where the grandmaster plan kind of falls down in that regard. So hopefully, if O'Neill's addressed that in the few short training sessions he's had, or at least tried to, then that will be a bit of a benefit. Just
how good is Martinez, Tim? Because I was one who, I mean, I'm only 5'3", and even I was taking the piss out of his eye. In Premier League, you talk with the comments of people like Chris Wood and like Troy Deeney and these lump strikers were going to manhandle him, but he's been outstanding, hasn't he?
Oh, it's been amazing. I mean, he's as tough as they come, obviously, fearless. But the thing that's underrated about Martinez is he's fantastic on the ball, insanely calm. And again, when you took him out of the team at the end of last year when he got injured, we really struggled because, again, you can give him the ball in a tight position and he's not nervous. When we had poor old Harry Maguire trying to play in the same position, trying to do the same thing, you give him the ball and he panics. And that's Harry's a class footballer. I feel really sorry for him. It's been very, the game has changed since he came to United, and it doesn't suit him. And it does suit Martinez. He's very clever, which is why the height hasn't been a problem. And United, especially Varane, very good at switching at the right moment. Varane's like a Rolls Royce of a defender, fantastic player. So I think our centre backs are as good as we've had since Rio and Vidic. You know, this is the first time where we felt really good about the main two centre backs. They're the two of the least of our worries. But I think that you're spot on. I think the communication with the goalkeeper and the way that they have to play now, because it is a completely different system, that's going to take some time. It's going to take some time, and people will take advantage of it. You know, Real Madrid already did, and so did Dortmund. You know, because you can see that happening. So, and the Premier League's tougher. Everyone's switched on. I just think Wolves have got to press. They've got to press. They can't. If they come out timid, we'll win 2 or 3-0. If they cannot come to Old Trafford with fear, they've got to come out and press, and that's what Brighton did, and that's why Brighton beat us. You know, Brighton came. They didn't come here thinking anything else other than it was a game of 11 against 11. They played their game. That's what you've got to do at Old Trafford.
And that, for me, ladies and gentlemen, is the reason why Pablo Sarabia cannot play a high percentage of games for Wolves this season, because he hasn't got the intensity to press the way that we need to against the top sides. He's a very tidy footballer, but for me, he's just not a player that we can afford to carry, because he's not got the age or the legs or the pace to press the way we need to. Do you disagree with that at all, Jeffo?
Not at all, to be honest. I think you're probably right. I think that he is a footballer who would do better in a side that has more control over a game. That's just why we saw what he did at PSG. He was quite effective. You know, he was involved a lot more in goals and assists, because they, as a team, and the quality of the league and the quality of the club against it, kind of proves that, you know, you can have these 1, 2, 3, or in PSG's case, probably 4 or 5 players who don't want to track back, don't want to work, don't have to work hard. But when you're in the Premier League, every team plays in that intense football model now that sort of Liverpool bought in under Klopp, and what Pochettino was doing at Tottenham, and and what is now happening at City. That you have to have 10 outfield players and a goalkeeper as well who can play football at an exceptionally high level and play with intensity. And I think we can hark back to what was said earlier about Ruben Neves and why he wasn't sold for a lot more than somebody like Caicedo, is because Caicedo has a natural athleticism that Ruben Neves actually doesn't have. He's quite a slow and can be quite a lumbering individual at times. And that is why these players are now going for £100 million, because not only are they very good footballers, but they are fantastic athletes.
And young, he's young. He's young as well, Caicedo. We've got to give him credit on that level. He's only 21. So, there's a lot of a higher ceiling than there is for Ruben Neves. Ruben Neves could have gone into any team and done a really good job in the Premier League, but for how many years? Caicedo could be 10 years being the new Kante for Chelsea. That's what they're hoping. But it does feel like a lot of money, doesn't it?
Great amount of people in the comment section tonight. Obviously, quite a few new viewers by the looks of it. We've got Abulali Daymani said Manchester United will win tomorrow. We've got Danny Boy, who's a West Ham fan, wishing Wolves good luck for the season. Great football club and fans. I hope you can grind out a result against the Manx. Stu Kessel, back to Wolves chat, saying that if we can move the ball quickly and get the likes of Hwang in behind, we have the pace to hurt Man United. I feel it's going to be key for Wolves. We need to stay in the game as long as we can. If we're not going to start Kalajdzic up front tomorrow, we need to press as much as we can, and then try and exploit them as the game goes on, with the likes of sort of maybe Hwang. Not many people will like to hear it, but maybe Daniel Podence off the bench tomorrow, maybe doing a bit of his magic. You might say he's petulant and he falls over a lot, but he's still our most effective player, and you can quote me on that. Brema Sesai says United will win, obviously. I'm not going to sort of try and put gold-tinted glasses on and be really stubborn. Wolves have got a mountain to climb tomorrow. It's always a tough game going to Manchester United, especially with our current predicament, but it's still 11 versus 11, guys. So, yes, just keep supporting Wolves. Drop a like if you've enjoyed the show tonight. Please subscribe to the channel it's the best value you can get. It's free. So, yeah, press the subscribe button before you go. We've had Jeffo, Pricey, Tim, and Blake on tonight's show. I'm going to come to Blake first because I've not got him involved as much as I'd like. I'm going to ask Tim a quick question before I get to Blake. Based on what you've heard come out of Blake's voice this evening, Tim, what part of the world do you think he's from?
Right, that's a really good question because I've been trying to place it. I'm gonna say Boston.
Do you want to tell him, Blake? Because if you occasionally a little bit of black country comes out and it's like the most bonkers hybrid accent you'll ever hear.
Born and raised in California, and then
no,
no,
whereabouts?
Orange County, right next to Anaheim.
God, no way. What whereabouts in? Sorry about this, guys, but whereabouts in Orange County?
So I was. Do you know? Literally the city of Orange, right next to where Orange meets Irvine.
My wife went to Los Alamitos.
Oh, no way. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I know that area really, 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 really well. That's crazy. Oh my God.
So when you put that with a bit of black country accent, Tim, that's why we got Blake on the show. We've got that variety.
Wow. No, honestly, I really enjoyed listening to you guys. Really learned a lot from this. It's been fascinating. A lot of really knowledgeable guys on here. Really appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, Paul D has commented, I'm sorry for not getting you involved as much as I'd like, Blake. Can someone please check Blake's pulse? I'm worried he's expired live online. A terrible way to go so publicly. But Blake, as I said, I'm going to come to you now. What is your score prediction for tomorrow's night's fixture between Manchester United and Wolves?
God, what on earth can you say? I pray it's going to be 1-1, but I think the reality of the situation is it's probably going to be Manchester United 3, Wolves 1.
Tough to take, but we'll accept your decision, Blake.
I do want to say, just to give Wolves supporters some tiny amount of hope, is with this old, what would you say, squad gone.
What was that you said then? What was the amount, Blake?
Amount?
Tiny.
But anyways, with the old squad gone, I think that there is a real opportunity here to start fresh. And as terrible as it is to lose Julian right before the season, it might be what's best for us to have a new manager come in. Now that we have to play all these not new players, but these relatively younger players that weren't really a part of the Wolves side for the past, 5 or so years. They certainly weren't in the Championship. They certainly were, some of them were with us for our first season in the Prem, but most of them weren't. And I think that there is at least some opportunity for us to sort of come back and rekindle as a team, actually make a start of this. So I don't know if that's very likely, but I think that there is some chance of that. And I think that is really, if there's any hope for Wolves this season, that's where it's going to come from.
So all we can do is keep the faith. What's your score prediction, Jeffo?
I'm actually fairly confident of getting a point, so I'm going to go 1-1. I think from what I saw in training, I think Gary's sort of putting his ideas across well. I just hope that they're able to translate to the pitch with such short notice. But I believe, come on, Gary O'Neill's army.
What's your opinion, Pricey? Where's your money at tomorrow night?
It just feels does it not just feel a bit weird when we've got a manager called Gary now as well? When we talked before about it's either been Julian, Bruno, Nuno, and they were saying Gary, one step away from having a manager called Craig or Ian or something.
It's been a long while since we had a Glenn.
Well, oh God, he knew where to get a 1-1 draw, didn't he, Glenn? But do you know what? To echo what the boys have said so far, my optimistic hat on, I think we can get a 1-1 draw. I'm not that confident. I think we can win. I think that we definitely will concede. I can see the scoring, so I would say a 1-1, but I think more likely, unfortunately, it'll probably be something like a 2-1 loss. But I'm optimistic. I've got to be. First game of the season, the optimism will never be this higher, so I'm going to keep it as 1-1.
Bar a second string Wolves side against Blackpool. We are unbeaten in pre-season, guys. Let's stick with the optimism. Obviously, Stade Rennais absolutely thumped Nottingham Forest 5-0, beat West Ham 3-1. And from what I saw at Molineux, we absolutely took Rennes to the clears. It should have been more than 3-1 on the day. Where's your money tomorrow night, Tim? Manchester United versus Wolves.
I just think, like I said, I think it's going to take O'Neill a little bit of time to get his message across. I just think that's normal. I do think you'll score. But I agree with Blake. I think 3-1 United. I think it's we've just got too much. Just got too much at the moment until Wolves really find their new groove.
We've got one comment in obviously in the comment section from Wolfie Adventures, and if this happens tomorrow night, I'll be probably topless outside of the outside Old Trafford. Wolves won. Fabio Silva bicycle kick. I mean, that's the stuff of dreams, isn't it, guys? That you can't even get that on FIFA or Football Manager. That just doesn't even happen.
Are you going tomorrow? Are you? Are you going to the game?
I'll be there. Yeah, it's
fantastic.
I've been deliberating about it for the last week, but I've got to support my team. Whatever happens. Yeah, so I'll be there tomorrow night. I'm gonna go with. It's unfortunate. I'm gonna have to say I think we're gonna lose 4-2 tomorrow, but I think we'll be 2-1 up. I just feel like this is a new era. I feel there'll be like a raw naivety where we might score 1 or 2 goals, but in the end, United's class might just sort of be the difference. But if we can score 2 goals tomorrow, guys, I think that'll be just a key thing for the fan base. I know we all need points and we all want to see amazing performances, but this team, we haven't seen enough goals. We want to be entertained, don't we? That's what we've paid the money. That's why Wolves keep on increasing our season ticket prices. If we're going to lose, go out.
How much do you pay? How much do you pay? Do you mind me asking? How much do you pay for your?
What's the most expensive season ticket now? Is it $7.25?
That's not bad.
Billy Wright, the Billy Wright, hasn't the Billy Wright Central lot gone over £800 now?
Let me put it to this though, Tim. The last 3 seasons we've scored at home 30, 31, and 29. It's not value for money at all, is it?
And what about it behind the goals? How much would you pay to?
I'm sorry, Tim. I'm telling a lie there. I think it's something like 19, 20, and 21. We've scored 30, 31, and 29 over the last 3 seasons in total.
But like to sit behind the goal, how much would it be?
I think it's $6.30 was mine in the South Bank. I think something like that.
So is that like £35 a game or something?
It's still what I class as the going rate for a Premier League. I think 30 to 35 Premier League, 20 to 25 the Championship, and then so on League One and League Two.
Not many clubs where you can still get £35 tickets now. You know, like I heard that the most expensive ticket now is Fulham.
Yeah, $3,000, isn't it?
Ticket. That's crazy. I mean, my seat. Have you sat in my seat? You haven't.
No, you gave it to Luke, if you remember.
Luke, right? Yeah, he sat in my. So you know what? I've got one of the best seats at Old Trafford, right?
On the dugout, yeah.
You're £50 a game. You know, and I still think that's really, really, really good. If you like Blake would tell you, if you go to a sport in America and you want to sit anywhere near the center of the pitch, you're paying in the thousands for a game. So we're still quite lucky in the Premier League to have that. But I'm jealous of you going tomorrow. I'm jealous. I get back to England in a couple of weeks. So we've got a lot of street stuff, as you know, and I'm going to be going to a few games, and I just can't wait. Win or lose, to be back there with our teams again. Brilliant, isn't it? Brilliant.
I'll pull out my Norwich scarf for you tomorrow if we go 1-0 up to. Like I said earlier, thanks for joining us, everyone, tonight. I've got a little bit of a quiz before we finish, but if you want to head off, it's up to you guys. One of the big things on Inset at the moment, similar to the craze of Wordle and whatnot, is the crossover grid. I'm not sure. I know me and Price talk about it a lot in our group. It's not going to be a who wins out of us. I'm going to bring us all together this season because there's always been an element that I provide too much tough competition in my quizzes. So now I'm bringing us all together as a team. So on tonight's episode, we're going to do the crossover grid, which you can find. I think it's crossovergrid.com. And what you have to do is you can see on the screen. So top left, you've got Bayern and Tottenham. You have to think of the most obscure player to have played for Bayern and Tottenham, and then Chelsea and Tottenham, Liverpool and Tottenham, and then you've got a Bayern Munich player who's Italian, Bayern Munich player who's French. So I'm going to come to you first, Tim, because you're our guest this week. Can you tell me a player as obscure as you can who's played for Bayern Munich and Tottenham?
Oh my God. As obscure.
Yeah, because the more obscure the player, the more points you get.
My goodness, he's played for Tottenham and Bayern Munich. Oh, I'm struggling. Somebody else help me out on this one.
Anyone? As a team, come on. First guess.
I'm going to say Klinsmann, but Stefan Freund, did he play for Bayern Munich?
Ooh,
Yeah, I don't know whether it was Munich or Dortmund, but
Wow.
I'm going to go with it because I was thinking I was going to go with Christian Ziege, but I think Stefan Freund might get more points. Let's try Stefan Freund.
Then Ziege.
No, Stefan Freund's obviously not a correct answer. Yeah,
Shit.
I'm going to go with Christian Ziege, who used to play for. There you go.
Wow, that's a big shout, mate. That's brilliant.
So let's go with Chelsea and Tottenham. Come on, Tim. Let's get a Chelsea and Tottenham player from you as obscure as you can.
As obscure as possible.
Yeah, I mean, you can. I want something from like the
what's that?
70s or the 80s here, Tim.
Oh, really? I was going to go for Carlo Cudicini, but
You might get good points for that, to be fair. We'll have a think of another one, and then we'll go with Cudicini if not.
oh my goodness. Because the ones I could think of are not rare. Again, somebody else jump in. I'm being useless here.
Should we go with Cudicini? Let's go with Cudicini because I know this show has gone over a lot this evening. So Carlo Cudicini, 17% of people have already chosen Carlo Cudicini. Blake, Liverpool and Tottenham.
Don't come to me. I've only been a football supporter for like
Jeffo,
10 years.
Liverpool and Tottenham, Jeffo.
Oh my God.
It's an obvious one. Mine would be sort of Robbie Keane, but there's got to be someone more obscure than that.
I've got one. I've got one there.
Go on.
Paul Stewart.
Used to play for Wolves, he did.
And he
Let's
was
go with him.
Liverpool.
Yeah, Paul Stewart. Yeah, 1964. Yeah, 0.56 people have picked him so far. An Italian Bayern Munich player of years gone by. If anyone's in the comments section, the threats had Mickey Hazard. I bet that would have got some good points. Ray Clements.
Luca Toni was Italian. He played for Bayern, but that's about 10 years ago, maybe. So I don't know. That's
a good shout, though. That's a good shout.
Let's go with Luca Toni to try and speed up the episode. Luca.
Yeah, I'd probably go Massimo Aldo.
Oh, 85%. An Italian Chelsea player. There could be everyone, but I'm going to go, if it's come straight to my mind, I can't even spell his name right. Sam Della Bona?
Wow.
What was his name? The Bona one?
Ella, wasn't it?
Oh, no, I can't even find him on the database here. Anyone else want to chime in?
I was thinking that left back, Delorno. He was Italian, played for Chelsea, didn't he?
Spanish, right?
Yeah, I think he was Spanish. Yeah, Asia Delorno, yeah. Who was the they had so many Italian players, Zola, Violi, but you want someone obscure, don't you? Franco De Santo, was he Italian?
No, Argentinian.
He was Argentinian.
We're going to have to think of someone quickly, guys. Italian Chelsea player. Who was that?
What was the fullback called? He played from the right back.
What about Fabio Barini? I know that's quite recent, but
I'm going to go with Casaraghi because he's more old school. 1.7%. An Italian Liverpool player, guys.
Ooh. What's Andrea De Sena?
Who was that? Oh my God! Who was that one who came and he was a central
Alberto Aquilani.
That's the one. Aquaman.
That's the one. I'll put him in once I get the flipping keys right. 26%. I'm sorry, guys. He's my favourite left back of German football and French football. It's Vicente Lizarazu for the French Bayern player. If you can think of anyone then that, I apologise.
What about for the French Chelsea player, Gael Kakuta?
Ooh.
Oh, that's a good shout.
Because there was a load of fuss about him. Do you remember?
There we go. Because we got 2 players wrong, we got 7 out of 9 guys, and we're currently 7,993rd in the current rankings of today's crossover grid. Get yourself on that game, guys. It's a nice little football trivia game. Once a day that comes on. Share it amongst your WhatsApp groups, and we there's some people who lie and cheat and put in like ridiculous players. I'm on to you, Rich Hobbs. I'm on to you. That's it. I mean, Stu Kessel said Roberto Di Matteo. There's some Chelsea have had more Italian players than Napoli. Thanks for joining us tonight, Aaron. 20 episode, guys. Tim, thanks for joining us all the way from America.
Pleasure.
Blake, all the way from Wolverhampton.
Oh, I'm in Florida now.
Oh, you're in Florida. Okay.
Yeah.
Adam from Lower Penn.
Bradmer, aye.
Bradmer, and then Jeffo all the way from
Great Whirly, yeah.
Nice to meet you,
guys.
lads.
At
Good luck
Wolves
tomorrow.
Fancast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and now TikTok. Even though we're all in our 30s, we're now on TikTok. Thanks for joining us. Have a good rest of the week, and hopefully we'll be back on Tuesday with a good podcast to review the match against Manchester United. Good night. God bless.